Hi everyone, in classic me fashion, somehow I lost the recorded audio that wasn't just on Zoom, so this one also has some slightly crappy audio. My bad. Enjoy anyway, it's still fun. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Vision Quest. My name's Ashley Appap, and this is a podcast where I speak to people who I enjoy talking to, and we talk about something that they're passionate about. So today we have a very special guest all the way from across the pond. Which pond? Multiple oceans. Duncan.
You don't know where I am, do you?
Which pond are you in? Yes, I do. You're in Canada. You're in Vancouver, right?
Okay, yeah, okay, you do know where I am. Hi, my name's Duncan.
Welcome. I just wanted to say that because the pond, usually, if you say across the pond, you mean the UK. But some could argue that the ocean is a pond.
Yeah, it's all just one pond. It's one big pond.
Yeah, this is all one pond.
Technically. You can't prove me wrong.
And then all of the countries with like land mass are just lily pads floating on the ponds.
We're just like giant piles of garbage sitting in a pond.
We're all frogs. Would you like to tell anyone listening and or watching, if that is you, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. A little bit about yourself. What are you doing in Canada? What are you doing with your life?
I'm in Vancouver pursuing like screenwriting and the screen trade here because everything is filmed in Vancouver, or at least it was before the world went to shit in 2020, but you know, it's still okay. And I know Ashley through my mate Hayden, who we do the Weekly Muniz together. It's our podcast. Yes. The Weekly Muniz, and we do an episode we aim every week to talk exclusively about Frankie Muniz. No one else is talking about this hot issue that Frankie Muniz exists still. So, you know, there he is. We're talking about him. I think the next episode, oh God, I'm not even going to talk about what the next episode is because I have no fucking clue what the schedule's like, but it's good. Go check it out. It's pretty fucking funny. I'm pretty good. Hayden's pretty good. And so is Frankie Muniz.
It's a good podcast. I was on it, 4 years ago?
You were on it like years ago. That's how we met, was you on the podcast.
When it began. Literally, I'd never met you. At Hayden's house, and we're sitting there in his room with Hayden's mum's house, cramped, three of us sitting there, and we watched Agent Cody Banks.
Oh yeah, fuck, I forgot. No, Agent Cody Banks 2. So anytime we had a special guest on, we watched Agent Cody Banks 2 Destination London. Yes. And we called it Agent Cody Banks 2 Special Guestination London. We had a bunch of guests doing that. It was so fucking impractical because when you're asking someone for a favor to like come and chill for like half an hour to do a podcast with you, they're like, cool. And then we're like, all right, sit down and watch this children's movie.
You guys piqued my interest in what's happening with him now. And I haven't been able to keep my eye off the ball of his pulse since. Fun thing Duncan and I both have in common. From Melbourne, Australia. Fled. But I obviously had to come back.
Suck shit.
Yeah, I do. And I suck a big, hot, steaming pile of shit every morning. And that's how I get my nutrients. Yum, yum, shit. And so when I was there, I was planning on making a podcast that was like going for a long walk with a friend and just interviewing them and being like, asking them some questions and it being like a transformative experience, being in nature, hanging out and not like on our phones or anything, just talking and talking about something that they like, because I feel like a lot of creative stuff, you let me know if you've had similar experiences. I don't have a lot of skills. Like I also do screenwriting and want to do more like filmmaking stuff, and I do lots of comedy.
Like you asked me if I'm exactly the same, and then you just said like, I don't have a lot of skills.
Hey, are you the same? Are you dumb and bad at things?
I actually am though. I'm like low-key offended by the fact that you're so right about me.
I love doing all these things and I know I'm good at certain aspects of it, but like I don't know how to use a camera properly. I don't know how to edit sound properly. I don't know how to do certain things. I just wanted to make something fun with people that I know that I'll like have fun with and share values with and talk about things that they like. And I think people should just like whatever they like, and that's cool. I hope that explains to you why I'm doing this podcast.
That's really sad that your going for a walk idea is like ruined by this pandemic. Going for a walk, like what's a resource that I can that's infinitely exhaustible that's never going to be taken away from me? Like the outside, you're just going for a walk in the neighborhood. That's 2020, baby. Yeah,
taking even the most accessible joys and crushing them in our fists. Okay, so let's begin these questions. Okay, number one is, what did you want to be when you grew up, and why do you think that is?
I wanted to be a train driver, and I know exactly why it is, because of Thomas the Tank Engine. And I was obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine, and by default, I was obsessed with all trains except for diesel trains because they were the bad guy. That was the bad guy in Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like grow up. Inevitably, by the time I was like old enough to be a train conductor or like an engineer, it would be like the year 2030, and we would still have steam trains around for me to conduct. That's the idea.
At what point in your life did you kind of veer off from that and realize, hey, maybe this isn't the option that I want to pursue?
I don't know. Like honestly, like when I was a little kid, I was really, really into the idea and like the whole gist of like engineering and like robotics and invention and stuff like that. Just like I don't know, like watching like Jimmy Neutron or something like that, and watching like a kid, you don't see him do any of the research or like or testing. You just see the end result where he makes a dope robot, and you're like, man, I want to make dope robots. But
yeah, you don't see any of the like hours of maths that he had to do to get to that point.
Like, how much testing does Jimmy Neutron have to do? He's got to like work his ass off every day. I was always more confused about how Jimmy Neutron afforded all the resources that he had. Because he had his workshop in like a huge basement that was bigger than his house.
Didn't Dexter have the same thing? He like is literally called, the show was called Dexter's Laboratory, right? He had like an underground.
I never watched that show, but I know what you're talking about. How he like lives in like a James Bond villain realm under his house or something.
Yeah. Where are these young white boys in suburban America on TV getting the money to have these labs?
Okay, here's one thing that I was thinking about the other day that really fucking frustrated me. When I was in primary school, my teachers were teaching me about states of matter, and they were teaching me about there's solids and there's liquids and there's gas, among others. Yeah. What they said was the example for how water becomes gas was in a steam train. When you boil the water, it becomes steam. And I was like, how does that make a train move? And they're like, I don't know. They just like ignored my answer. Like, how does that make a train go forward? They just boil water inside of a train?
My teachers just gave me a kettle as an explanation. And I think that was good because I didn't then think about the movement of a kettle.
Like, why don't kettles drive around my kitchen?
Yeah.
That's because they don't have rails.
And there's a hot take. There's your answer. There's your answer to the train one, though. Rails. All right. On to the next question. Question 2. What is your favorite thing about yourself?
My mustache. I've been trying this new mustache out and I'm liking it. It's just barely long enough for me to twist it.
Get
like
as close
JVN,
as you
like
can so that the twistiness is beautiful.
How about that?
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's on its way to JVN status.
No, I don't think it's ever going to be there, but like it's just like it's reminiscent for sure.
Yeah. It's an ode to. We love you, Jonathan Van Ness. You're definitely not listening to this, but...
Fuck, I love him so much. For some reason, I thought someone said his name was JVN, and I just heard that as Javian. Like that was his name, it was Javian. Like it was some weird Hunger Games, like young adult, like made up name.
I think there's like a whole class of names that are going to be extinct. I don't know. And some names carry weight to them. Like my name, if you hear my name, you don't think me. My name, like, especially how it's spelled, is associated with like a cheerleader that like is also
Ashley.
A vampire.
Ashley's a really common name though.
It is, but not anymore. You don't see people now naming their kids Ashley. When we were like, my name was the most popular name in the year that I was born for babies, which makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what Ashley means?
Yeah, it means burnt tree.
Oh, cool.
And my last name means beekeeper. So my name means burnt tree beekeeper.
Ooh, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, it is. It is. I actually,
so
yeah,
cool.
I like. Wait, what does your name mean?
Duncan is Scottish Gaelic, and it means dark-skinned warrior.
Well, you know,
is what I am, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
In spirit. Yeah.
Spirit on the inside.
I just need to get a tan or something, I guess, because it's not specifically about race or anything. It's just like dark skin. I looked it up, and it's just like that's the only thing. There's no any sort of etymology, any sort of reasoning behind it. Dark-skinned warrior. Those 3 words, and that's it.
What does your last name mean? So, what do you know what your full name means altogether?
My last name means swamp.
So your name means dark-skinned warrior.
Pete, like Pete Moss. It means like it's like I'm the defender of the swamp. Like Shrek. I'm like Shrek. Yeah, cool. I'm like Shrek.
Great.
Thinking about Shrek earlier today, actually.
I mean, I'm always thinking about Shrek. He's always on my mind.
Thinking about Shrek. He's always on my mind.
I'm gonna do a little thing and put Shrek on your face now. There's Shrek.
Oh, okay, go for it.
And gone. I'm moving on to the next question, which is,
okay.
What is your favorite feeling? So it can be physical or emotional. So anything.
Mine's physical.
All right, go.
And I wrote a really loud, really crisp high five.
I thought you were going to say really loud, really crisp fart.
Yes. That's more of an emotional thing, though. I think it's just Because farts are undeniably the funniest thing in the world. When people try and deny that farts are like hilarious, they're the funniest thing ever.
When people judge other people for pooing and farting, it's like it's one of the few things that everyone does. Shut up, you know?
Right?
Okay, so go back to high fives. So you love a crisp high five. Do you remember the best high five you've ever had?
I do, yes. Me and my friend Dion in high school, and we had perfectly shaped hands. Mine were like slightly larger than his, and I don't know how, but like we just like, bam! We just like it just like cupped. It just like made like perfect. It wasn't like a classic like high five like snap sound. It was like a whip crack, and it was like whoosh. Wow. It just exploded. These high fives just rippled. And it was so good. And I don't know how, but me and Dion, like only me and him, the combination of our hands together. What's the secret?
It's the only way. The secret is you look at each other's elbows as you're doing it.
I've tried that. That doesn't work. That's bullshit.
My favorite kind of high five is
I end up just going too low. I end up just going for people's elbows. Oh, that one? The classic the flip around?
Yeah. The flippity.
I can't do it because I'm holding my microphone in my hand because I'm an amateur. I don't have a stand for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the flippity doo-dah.
Let's move on to the next question.
Okay, cool.
Okay, next question is, what's your happy place?
My happy place. Fucking around by a river. That's what I wrote. Ever go like camping or anything like that? You find a river and you don't really like do anything by the river. You don't go fishing or anything like that. I'm like skipping stones or anything. You're just fucking around.
That's very close to my answer for mine is just like being in or near a body of water.
I do not need to be in the body of water. I gotta be next to it. It's gotta be fast moving. It's gotta be a river, and I gotta be fucking around simultaneously. I can't be busy and I can't be bored. I have date in between those two things, which I call fucking around, just on my own.
Just on your own.
I have to be. I mean, you could be with friends.
Amazing.
There's like a fun like thrill to being alone, isn't there?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just solitary by a river. The worst possible thing, like the thing I hate more than anything else in the world, is like being stuck in traffic. When you think about it, it's equally as stimulating as just like fucking around by a river. You're just like doing nothing.
You're stuck in this like box of air. It's loud and it's annoying and you can't just like be outside. I'm happy to be completely alone and doing absolutely nothing if I'm outside. Like very happy. But if I'm in a car, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? This is a waste of my time. I could be outside. I
fucking hated driving to work. It was the worst thing ever. When I finished studying and I got my first job, I got a really cool job and it was like 2 hours from my place where I lived at the time. And I had to drive there. So I drove 2 hours to and from every day until I moved to like an apartment that was closer. But I figured it out. And I think I spent like in those like 2 or 3 months, I spent like 2.5 weeks in traffic in total. This is in Melbourne.
Where were you living versus working? That's so far away.
My mum lives in Diamond Creek, which is like it was like northern. My job was in Clayton, which is like southern. So I had to drive not through the city, but like around the city in like a great horseshoe shape. And people drive to and from the city when they're working, but like I was going far from the city. I was just going around everything. And there was still fucking traffic everywhere. Everyone was going to work. I'm like, where the fuck are you guys? Are you all working in Clayton and living in Diamond Creek too?
I hate that.
That's obviously not true, but like that's how I felt in my car. I could be fucking around by a river right now, and instead I'm stuck in traffic.
Next one.
Fucking around by the river.
What is your favorite song to cry to?
Oh yeah, this one was hard because I don't like to cry to songs. I remember like the first song I actually did cry to was it's like the nerdiest shit of all time, but it was like when I was like a kid and I played Red Dead Redemption and it's got a really sad ending. There's like alternate endings, but one of them is like really sad and it's really fucking good. And there's a song called Dead Man's Gun that plays and it was so fucking good and it was so fucking sad, and it was like the first piece of media or anything that I cried to, like including movies and books and songs and anything like that, was the ending of fucking Red Dead Redemption. It was a while ago. I was like 14. I think I was like 14, but I remember I finished the game and I cried a little bit and I was like and I gotta clear up my tears because I didn't want my brother to see that I was a pussy for crying at a video game. And then he came out and I told him like I finished the game, it was pretty cool, and he was like, you get the ending? And I was like, yeah, I got the ending. You hear Dead Man's Gun? I was like, yeah, I heard Dead Man's Gun. And then like Fuck, it was so sad, man. Well, it was so good. We bonded over having cried to Dead Man's Gun.
That's beautiful. That's great.
It's fucking great.
Next question is, who's someone you admire?
Ernest Hemingway. What the fuck is with Ernest Hemingway? His life is insane. Like he was an author. He wrote some books. So he was nominated for like a couple Pulitzer Prizes. He wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls, but that's kind of like the side step to like just what the fuck his life was. It was insane. Let me read. I'm going to skim through his Wikipedia page. Okay, so he was born in Chicago. So he fought in World War One, responded to a Red Cross recruitment effort. He got wounded and he went back to Toronto, moved to Paris, fell in love with the nurse that was treating him when he was wounded. He married the nurse. They moved to Paris. He was friends with Pablo Picasso before he started writing. After that, he left the nurse. No, she left him, and that spurred this habit of him not trusting any woman he ever had been with after that nurse, because every single one of them he cheats on and falls in love with the other woman. He went to the Caribbean. He hunted sharks. There's a picture of him with 4 sharks that are bigger than any man. He fought in the Spanish Civil War, where he was presented at the Battle of Embro, the last Republican stand. He was among the British-American journalists who were some of the last to leave the battle as they crossed the river. He was in Cuba. He fought in Cuba, and he shot himself in the leg with a harpoon while he was aiming for a fucking shark. He fought in World War II and was wounded again by a very weird technicality. He violated the Geneva Convention by forming a militia, technically. He was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Cuba. I didn't know that. I'm just finding that out exactly right now. And he was wounded so badly that he got severe PTSD, and psychiatric health wasn't super available. Oh no, yeah. Also, he was a fucking informant for the KGB. Just so we're aware.
Okay,
and he went to a psychiatric ward for his PTSD, and he was released, and then he shot himself in the head with a 12-gauge shotgun.
Jesus. Okay. My question is, what about...
Also, he wrote some books.
He wrote some books, yeah. The only thing I knew about him was the books. Didn't know any of this. This is crazy. What about him do you admire? Which part?
He did everything. I want to be an informant for the KGB. That sounds awesome. Let's get the KGB started again, just so I can get an invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like he seems like very adventurous, like extremely adventurous.
Yeah, that's a good.
I wouldn't ever hunt sharks because I'd be like, whoa, that's too adventurous for me. No, thank you. But then he got at least 5 of them.
Being adventurous these days versus then is so different, because it's like you don't need to like go out and hunt shit to find stuff out. You can just be like, I'll Google that information and find it myself.
You can, but like anyone can really do that. I feel like getting the same returns from things are like totally changed. So in order to learn about the anatomy of a shark, back in Hemingway times, you had to like physically cut open a shark and be like, oh, look at that. But now you can just like Google shark insides. Oh yeah, by the way, he as a civilian, he hunted Nazis with a machine gun and a box of grenades from his own boat that he owned.
I can definitely get behind that.
Maybe I'll get behind. Yeah, maybe that's the part I admire the most about him, that he exploded Nazis on his own time, like he wasn't enlisted at all.
For fun, as like a recreational activity. That's his version of fucking around down by the river. Good on him.
Yeah, I feel like he wasn't really trying to get anything out of it. He wasn't trying to like learn what like the insides of Nazis look like. He was just like, this seems like the right thing to do right about now. So he just like kind of did it, you know?
That's a good way to live.
Maybe he learns that from Pablo Picasso. Who knows?
Although Picasso was creepy as fuck.
He probably learns a lot of stuff from Pablo Picasso, because Ernest Hemingway wasn't a saint either. I mentioned he over the course of that, just like sprinkle in like he cheated on his wife, and then he got divorced, and then he fell in love with the woman that he cheated on his wife with. But he did that like 6 or 7 times throughout his life. That's
definitely not the most admirable.
And then adventurous doesn't mean good. It just means adventurous.
But killing Nazis does mean good. Okay, so the next question is, what's some weird kids stuff you used to do?
I used to wear this hat all the time. I think there's photos of me in high school. I was the hat guy. I had this one beanie that I wore every day, and I was obsessed with wearing this beanie.
Am I allowed to have a copy of one of those photos to put up so people can see the hat?
I'll try and find one. Yeah, I think I have one. I got rid of the actual hat like ages ago. I don't know why. I think I was just getting rid of a bunch of shit, and I was like, yeah, throw away this hat.
Yeah.
But
RIP hat.
it's not a particularly special hat. There's no sentimental qualities to it whatsoever. I just put on this hat and I was like, this feels right. This feels like who I am. This is Duncan. And every single kid in high school was like going through a phase of like discovering who they are and whatever. And like a lot of kids went through like a lot of crazy phases, you know. There's like the goth phase and like the artist phase, and there's like this, and you know, some kids were like bullies and assholes. And I was like, I wear a hat. That's me.
Yeah, I think that's a
Look at this hat that I'm wearing.
That's a very harmless phase to go through. That's great.
Yeah, but it's not adventurous. What do you think like Ernest Hemingway would do?
Not yeah, he would not
Like,
wear.
do you think it doesn't say on his Wikipedia page like he wore a hat for a bit?
No. But that's not to say you're not doing adventurous things now. I mean, you moved across the world. That's adventurous.
Yeah, sort of.
Just because you had dual citizenship doesn't mean it's not adventurous.
I know, it's so good having dual citizenship. I would so recommend it.
Oh yeah, look, it's not that easy for the rest of us, but it just means you got to do it without as much hassle. I think people that have dual citizenship to countries like where there is opportunities for them and they don't take advantage of it makes me so angry, because as someone who wants to try and like live in different places and just take a leaf out of Ernest Hemingway's book and be an adventurous human being, it's frustrating to see people that have that opportunity and they don't do it. And I'm like, ugh.
That's exactly why I decided to move away, because like when I was studying in Melbourne, because obviously when you go to college or whatever, there's a fuck ton of like international students pretty much everywhere. And there were people that were like busting their ass, working so hard to get the student visa. They were working so hard. They had to like work like crazy, and they came to school and they all they wanted to do was to live in Australia. So they got the student visa and they attended the minimum requirement for the classes, which was still like 3 days a week. So it's like, you can come to this country, but you have to follow these very strict restrictions, and you have to make sure you go to this dumb school that you don't want to go to, and it has to occupy at least half of your days. There's like, visas aren't easy to get.
No, not at all. I did exchange in Boston in 2015, but it was like a summer semester, because going to the US costs so fucking much. Like even just one full semester is, I think mine was $12,000 and it was for 6 weeks.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And $2,000 a week.
Yeah. And then like my visas, I've had 3 visas in the US, like my student one, the J1 and the E3. And there's so much shit and it's so frustrating. So anyway, kudos to you for having that opportunity and taking it by the balls, if you will.
By the balls.
By the balls. I read something the other day that was saying like, I don't pay attention to the news. It overwhelms me, but it was like, there's this new thing they're trying to put in place for Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the UK, so that people can just travel between them, and there's like no visas. You can work and live in any of those countries, and it's just chill.
Wait, which countries? You said Australia, Canada, and the UK?
And New Zealand.
And New Zealand. Oh, it's like the Five Eyes Agreement or something like that?
Yeah, it's got something, but the US isn't involved in it. It's like the colonized countries.
It's like the British Commonwealth, I guess.
Yeah. It is to an extent, like there are visas. So like if I wanted to go to Canada and work and live there, it would definitely be easier than it is to go to the US. But there's still like a time limit on how long you can live there and work there, on who can do all those things. So it would be a lot more relaxed in terms of, I think there'd probably still be a time limit, but it might be longer, and it would be a lot easier. So you wouldn't need to get anything in your passport. Like your Australian passport would be enough to just go to Canada and like live and work there.
They should do that. That sounds awesome. They should just do that, because
Absolutely.
That sounds way better than not being able to do that.
I think that's happening, or like that's in legislation now. I'm not sure. But that would be great, especially like film stuff. Most of it happens, like you said, most of it happens in LA, but then in Canada, most of it happens in Vancouver, and then most of it happens in the UK. So it would be a great way to like get experience in different countries and then be able to come back to wherever and have jobs, because there's no way to get experience here.
That's like I think like COVID is like particularly showing how fucking annoying that is, because now that you just can't travel between the US and Canada as freely as you could. You sort of can, but there's like so many restrictions that like tons of TV shows are just like completely shut down because there was like, I don't know, someone I know was like working on Riverdale and they said like that they can't just get Cole Sprouse to come over and shoot their thing because he is an American citizen, and if he just shows up, he has to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, and then then when they start filming their thing, he can't just like bounce back and go wherever he wants to over the weekend or like when they're not working, when they're not shooting. Everything is just locked down because of like one person that can't fucking do it because of this like dumb fucking reason. Well, it's not a dumb reason, but like imagine if he was from like Cuba or something like that. Imagine if this person was working in any country other than the US.
Yeah.
That they weren't a citizen of the country, of the industry that they want to get into, then everything would just be fucked.
But I understand why the rest of the world is like, no one from the US can just come in because they're not taking care of the problem at all.
Well, yeah, I know, but like that's because it's like it's very contemporary. Like it's kind of highlighting these problems that we had before that we weren't implementing for any good reason. You know, we're not trying to like keep a disease out of the country by just like not letting Egyptians come to Canada. We're just like, nah, I don't like them. I don't want to go away.
Get out of here. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Hey. It's just full of people going, hey, at the border.
That's immigration.
Yeah.
It's just my ancestors. Hey. Okay. So the last question before we get into your topic is, do you think aliens are real?
Yes, I think aliens are real. I don't think they're at Earth though, but if they were, I would be so down. I would fucking love to meet an alien.
Yeah. Same.
I saw this thing where people reckon they found there's like evidence of life on Venus, like microbial life, but still because they were doing this like probe of because Venus, it's not a gas giant, but it's not a gas planet, but it's surrounded by this like really thick, very like opaque atmosphere, so you can't actually see the planet itself. You're basically just seeing this the dust,
the smog,
and people did these the smog. And they're doing this analysis of the smog. And they found this one element or this one chemical compounds that it's like it does occur naturally, just in like the kind of like planetary formations. I'm going to look it up now, actually. Phosphine. They found phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus, which is something that does technically occur like occasionally, like in very small amounts. But they found like fuck tons of phosphine, and they're like, where's all this phosphine coming from? The only logical explanation is that like it might have come from microbial life.
Whoa.
People think that there might be like little grubs and germs on Venus.
That's very exciting.
I want to meet them.
I want to meet them too. That's really cool. I was going to say, I just don't think it's, why would we exist without other things existing? That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm not even going to speculate, but I think like massive fucking fluke that humans just happen to exist. The universe is very big. I think there's room enough for more than one fluke, you know?
Definitely.
I was actually talking about this on the podcast on the Weekly Muniz and like a couple episodes ago. But here's my plan. Here's what I want to happen after I die. And it's a really good idea, and no one should take this idea because it's such a good idea.
Okay.
I looked up with SpaceX how much it actually costs, like per kilogram, to send up your own commercial stuff. People want to send up satellites or whatever. I don't want to do that. After I die, I want to send up my body or just my head from the neck up. I just want to and just put that in a spaceship and just send it up.
Okay.
And then I want my head just ejected out the airlock with like a little guidance system or something like that. We'll figure it out. I'm sure like once I'm a millionaire and I can afford this, I'll just like ask an astrophysicist to sort this tricky bit out. But I said, I want my head to land on Europa. It's a moon of Jupiter, and it's in the Goldilocks zone where the temperature is perfect for sustaining life. My head is going to go onto Europa, and it's going to smack on Europa, and it's going to be disgusting. And I want to keep like little like fungus cultures or something like that, or I don't know, or like maybe like mold is going to grow on my head, and then that mold is going to evolve into life, and I'm going to be the god of Europe.
Wow. As Owen Wilson once said, wow. That is a great idea. That's an excellent idea. I can see that being plausible. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
All I need to do is I need to become a millionaire first, figure out the specifics, but the heart of the idea is there.
As long as you have it, like maybe I'd say step one is write your will now and write this into your will.
Oh yeah, I should do that.
So that the people that are here when you're gone are aware of the plan and can get all this happening. I think that's
a good idea. Yeah, I should probably figure that out.
Well, you've already put it out there on the Weekly Muniz. You've put it out there here. If there's anyone consuming any of this information and can help in any way, get Duncan's head to Europa.
Oh yeah.
Let us know.
If there are any head experts, if there are any astrophysicists, I said head experts.
Yeah, head experts is very funny.
Nice.
Would a head expert be a neurologist?
Maybe. Yeah, sure. Why not? A head expert. Any lawyers that specialize in very specific and elaborate wills? Do me a favor and help me make this. I want to be a god of Europa.
We should start a GoFundMe. Get Duncan's head to Europa.
That's a good idea.
My plan for when I die is to be cremated and then force, like in my will, my family, when I'm gone, or friends or whatever it is, the lawyer comes to them and they all meet in that office we see in movies and they're talking like, okay, this
Oh, they're reading the will out.
They're reading the will, but instead of reading the will, they get an envelope. In the envelope, there's a riddle. The riddle sends them on a scavenger hunt around the world. I've paid for it. I've organized all of it, and it brings them all. It brings them all closer. It brings them all together, and
it turns out that the inheritance was the friends they made along the way.
Exactly. Yep.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
But it turns out you actually don't have enough money to sustain it, so they've inherited a bunch of debt from the adventure.
No. I have the money, but I spend it all on the scavenger hunt.
So at the end of the day, the inheritance it's like $500 each.
Yeah, maybe.
And a sorry note.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, but they have to they have to take my ashes with them on the scavenger hunt, and they have to the end of it is like the edge of some waterfall, and they have to like tip me over the waterfall. And then maybe once they do that, there's a bell that chimes, and then the money is there. I don't know. Maybe they do get money. All I know is they have to go on this trip.
An old man. You know what would be so funny? It would be so funny if you were like, my dream is for my ashes to be thrown into a volcano. And you write in the instructions very specifically to tip out the ashes into a volcano, and they carry the ashes with them, and they tip it into the volcano, and at the bottom of the urn with the ashes is all the money, and they throw it into the volcano, and then you have a second note that says, suck shit.
Wow. That's a note that says
there's like $100,000 in there.
That's what you get for being a people pleaser. Follow your own rules. Why do you listen to me? How dare you listen to my dreams?
All the other notes up until now, they've been like so nice. They've been so gentle and warm and really, really kind. And the last one's like, fuck you.
Or like it's a picture of me, like it's like me mooning them and giving them the finger. People like
it's like you give them a greeting card, but a greeting card where you can record your own message. You know those like talking greeting cards, and you can it says "fuck you" as they open up their will. The $1 in it.
Amazing.
And you don't pay for their ticket home.
Yeah, and then they're stuck like in Peru on a mountaintop with nowhere to get down. Now that we're done with all the questions, Duncan, take it away. What will we be chatting about today for your topic?
Yeah. So, full disclosure, when you asked me what my topic was going to be, I didn't put any thought into it. I just said what was in my lap, and I was reading a book, so I said books.
Amazing.
So we're talking about books now.
Excellent. So let's start.
Which are cool. I love books.
Yeah, books are incredible. Let's start with what was the book that you were reading that was in your lap?
Oh, at the time I was reading Catcher in the Rye, which is it's very short. It's like a really, really quick book. It's like 200 pages or something like that. But it's deceptively very boring.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I really fucking liked it. Have you read it?
I have read it, and I didn't hate it, but I just like was very indifferent. I was just kind of like, this is kind of boring. I think I struggle, like I'm a very slow reader in general. I like just realized that it's not that I don't enjoy reading everything. It's just I need to actually be invested in the story to finish a book.
It's like movies, except if a movie you had to be like consistently engaged in it no matter what. You can't just like kind of have a book. You can't be reading a book in the background while you're doing something else. So it has to grab you.
You can't be reading a book and like scrolling.
Here's the thing: most books aren't good. Like a lot of them are not good. Take Catcher in the Rye, for example. I was like, whenever I just mentioned to like, I think my friend Dwayne, I mentioned that like I was reading it, and he's like, oh yeah, I read that in school when I was 13. Like, you read that boring ass book when you were 13 years old? I'm choosing to read it, and I know it's boring. So what's the plot? He just like he flunks out of high school, and he fucks around in New York for like 3 or 4 days, and then the final chapter is like, and then I went home from fucking around in New York for a few days. And the book is just full of prose and stuff. I was like waiting, it's like, this guy better get like a letter from Hogwarts or something. Just something better happen to him. He's he gets superpowers at some point, like something spectacular has to happen. But no, it's like the whole book is just the fact that nothing's happening, and you're just hearing what's happening inside of his head. Like it's just pages and pages of prose. But it's cool.
I think I struggle with, there's so many books in high school that you're assigned to read that are not what kids want to be reading. And I get that it's like, there's a syllabus and they're trying to teach certain things that go along with like what we should be learning about, whether it's the way that the book is written or the topic that it's about. Like we had to read The Outsider. Is it just called Outsider or The Outsider? Where it's all about existentialism.
The Outsider? Okay. It's about existential. Is it literally like a non-fiction book about existentialism?
It's not it's fiction, but
what's the book about?
The whole thing is from inside the guy's head. I think in general, I prefer third-person books or books that are written in first person, but they're not about everything that's happening in the head. It's about like how they're interacting with the world. The whole book was about how this guy is realizing that nothing matters. That's it. That's the book.
What the fuck?
And
I wonder why teenagers are so depressed nowadays. Let's get them to read nihilistic theory.
Exactly. And like the whole argument in class was like, is this nihilism or is it existentialism? And like us talking about that. And I remember at that age being very like, oh my God, I had a Tumblr, I had a blog, right? My feelings were, I still talk about my feelings. I think that's good. Ooh. But I think I was just like so emotional, such an emotional teenager that I was like, oh my God, existentialism. I vibe with this. That's me. Ooh, yeah, baby. I'm an existential.
Oh man.
Queen. It was.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking back at it and I'm like, why the fuck would they show us? Why would they get us to read this?
There are like books that aren't like terribly sad and dry that like have stuff like that in it. Have you read like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Like it like follows stuff like that all the time, and it's like so funny. It's so good.
I haven't read it.
That was like one of those like when I started actually seriously like getting back into books. I read like Red Dwarf and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because they're made for like children. They're except they're like hilarious and they're good and they're actually like kind of sophisticated in a little in certain ways. That's what I didn't realize. I was going to say people in general, but that's kind of a generalization. That's what I didn't realize is that like really long texts don't have to be like boring as fuck.
No.
Because like whenever I had to read something for school, I'd be like, why the fuck did the person make this boring? If I wrote a book, I wouldn't make it this boring. But I didn't realize there are authors out there that vibe with that. They feel exactly the way I felt. They were like, I'm going to write a book that's not boring. But I went through all of high school, like having to read, was it Tomorrow When the War Began? And this one terrible book about this Australian settler who ended up like massacring a bunch of Aboriginal people. And it was like, this is really intense. And it was awful.
I understand that a lot of the time in school, they try to get us to read books that educate us about other topics. So like, whether it be like Australian history or whatever it is. But school is at that age, like, especially like VCE, there's so much pressure. You're going through enough emotionally, like just having puberty. Do we really need to be reading shit and then having to write essays on it on top of that? Yo,
school was one of the most stressful times of my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It was like top 3 most stressful experiences ever. It was the last semester of year 12. And since then, I haven't used my VCE once. I haven't used it for a single thing. Even getting into doing a study film. I was like, they just asked me like, so you studied high school last year? And I was like, yeah, I graduated high school. And like, cool, I trust you. I take your word for it. And I didn't even take I didn't take the certificate out of the envelope. Like, why the fuck do I have this?
The only thing I think I learned that has served me since high school in that time was that if I'm under that much pressure, I will push through it and be able to deal with it. But once it's over, I will have a breakdown.
Yeah, you can only run on fumes for like an indefinite period, but then everyone just like crashes and burns after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And some people, they don't even stop. Some people, like, they don't take a break after high school to like recuperate and figure out, like, oh shit, okay, this is what being not stressed feels like. They just like, okay, medical school. Now I have to become a lawyer and impress my father.
Yeah, time to go to medical school to be a lawyer.
Yeah, that's what it is. I didn't go to medical school, so I can only assume. But like some people are just like so into that. Some people are so into just the pressure and just desensitize themselves to like tension and boredom and like stimulation and like trying to stimulate themselves with things that they don't enjoy. You know?
I think it sets up such a shitty expectation for like what growth and adulthood would be, because it's like, okay, school is like, you complete this thing, you get a grade. You complete this thing, you like get a grade. It's like steps, and you keep going up and up and up and up, and then you finish school, and nothing is ever like that again, where you're getting like rewarded for things you're doing and feeling this like achievement. So you're either like aiming for this goal that's like so hard to get, and then when you can't get to it, you're like depressed, or you are able to somehow be like, okay, well, that's not how life should be, about doing things that make me feel good. Okay, great. But school does not foster that at all. So many people finish school and they're like, okay, I have to like chase this next thing, rather than like, it's okay to do nothing. It's okay to have a break and be like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm just going to enjoy my life for a bit. Or like, I don't need to be the best of the best, whatever. I can like work in a shop. That's fine.
I was talking about this with a friend actually, like not that long ago, specifically about whenever they have the classes that they kind of feel they need to teach, but they get a separate team in to talk about it. So they have the people that come and talk about like sexual health or drugs or like underage drinking. Like those are the three things pretty much. They fucking follow a totally different structure to how school is normally structured. So like when you're in like English class, they need to fucking like go out of their way and specifically tell you like exactly what you need to know. Like they have to go out of their way and like bash you over the head with like, this is what the symbolism of this book is. Like figure it out. Like here it is. Because like kids aren't gonna like go out of their way and like understand what the fuck the red handkerchief was in the third act of that thing. But in sex ed, they completely inverse that expectation, which makes no fucking sense, because that's the one subject that kids are actively interested in, like genetically. They're like, I want to learn about this thing. And like, okay, well, hold on. Let's just talk about like less. Let's just not explore like every single thing. Let's go out of our way to make this seem as elusive as possible.
Sex ed is something that you're going to need to know for the rest of your life, whether you're sexually active or not. Just like even just how your body works and all of that. And then self-esteem as well is another thing that, at least at my school, they had people come into the school, I think in like year 10, and we did these workshops that were like in Mean Girls at the end, where there's like, everyone gets up and talks about they've been through. And it was really, and they had like the boys do one and the girls do one. And it was a really good thing. I remember it being like transformative for a lot of people and really positive. But I'm like, why did we have one session of this thing that like for the rest of your life, like school ingrains in you a bad self-esteem? Like you're always just working for this next thing that's like unachievable, when they're teaching us to just like fuel things that make you feel good and like enjoy your life. And then what was the other thing you said?
And it was like underage drinking.
Yeah.
And like drugs and stuff.
Yeah, teaching people
kids
about
are like so interested in drugs.
Exactly.
Kids are so interested in drugs and like cigarettes, and they never talk. Okay, they just talk about like how bad cigarettes are for you, which is true. Like obviously, like cigarettes are so bad for you. Don't smoke cigarettes because you'll get cancer, and they're expensive, and they're bad for you, like cosmetically. Even if you give a shit about like how your voice sounds, or how your skin complexion is, or like your teeth as well. You know, if you get upset about all that, it wastes time because you spend all your time smoking. But like,
it's addictive.
Smoking. So there has to be at least like one upside. There has to be like one good thing about it, at least. And they don't even address the fact that cigarettes make you look cool. Kids don't smoke because I want to get cancer. They smoke because I want to look cool.
If they talk about all these things in one, like feeling shit or good about yourself doesn't go away. Like wanting to or not wanting to have sex and like learn about it doesn't go away. And being potentially addicted to things, or like facing these things in the world that are really bad for you and can fuck up your life, that doesn't go away either. Why don't we learn about those things?
Yeah, I remember asking my maths teacher, I was like, how do we do our taxes? And they're like, oh, we'll get to it.
I still don't know. How to do it.
That's the only time I've ever genuinely been interested in paying taxes. I was like, hey, let's learn about taxes. And like, the one person who can save me.
Let's get back to books.
Okay, sure.
What's your favorite book of all time?
It would be a tie between Red Dwarf. Oh no. Okay, so no. Okay. I was gonna say a tie between Red Dwarf and 1984, but I just remembered this book that I loaned to a friend that's not on my bookshelf right now.
Okay.
It's called Comedy by the Numbers, and
Ooh.
it is so good. Have you read it?
No, but that sounds in my wheelhouse. What is it?
You should read it. It's a list of 169 funny things, and they're all fucking hilarious. It's just a coincidence that it ends with 69, but I feel like if they made a reference to that, they would bump it to 170, and it'd be like not funny anymore.
Yeah.
It's alphabetical, so it's like the first thing, like number one is animals doing things humans do, and it's like a dog doing his taxes, and it's like so fucking funny. And like later down the list, it's like vomiting and farting, and then this one's like the double take. But some of them are like very specific gags. Some of them are like wearing this silly hat or like falling down the stairs. And some of them are like very, very broad comedic terms. So like you actually learn a lot about stagecraft and stuff like that.
I love that.
I love it so much. It was the first book I willingly read cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
The first book that I actually enjoyed doing so, and the first book that I read twice.
I have this book. Wait, let me get it. So it's called The Definitive Guide to an Unpredictable Career in Comedy. And it's like written by a guy.
There's a chicken on the front. That's cute.
There's a chicken in it with a tie. The guy who wrote it was, there's things in here, was the editor of The Onion for a really long time. And it's just like
sick.
Practical advice. So he talks about stand-up, improv, sketch, TV, writing, directing, and YouTube. And like podcast. There's way more. Is it funny?
Is the book hilarious?
Yeah, there's like all these interviews with funny people that are like professionals in these getting started in stand-up, and then it will have, however, an interview with Pete Holmes. Oh,
I love Pete Holmes. He's so good.
Me too. An interview with Paul F. Tompkins, who's my favorite comedian of all time.
Fuck yeah. So
it's got all these interviews with professionals, and then it also is just like has a list how to. So like for YouTube, it's like what are the steps to creating a YouTube video, like to uploading it? What is a thumbnail? That's so cool. Everything. It's great.
I feel like stuff like that's never actually like explained to anyone. It's all just like, it seems really simple, but some people are like way better at it than others, so it clearly can't be simple.
Exactly, which is why this is so helpful. And I had another copy of it that I had like all these tabs, and it was all color coded and highlighted. And I let my friend borrow it in LA. My friend Ashley Dawn, shout out to her, she's great. And she was like, this is so good, this is so helpful to me. And she started starting to blow up in her career a little bit, and she was like, this has helped me a lot. And I was like, oh, you should keep it, and I'll just buy another one because it's actually helping you. What else? I'm reading Catch 22. Yes, which is really good. Currently I'm reading Me and White Supremacy, and it's like a work. Oh, cool. And me and two of my friends. It's a workbook? Yeah, it's like you read chapters and then there's like little exercises you do. So me and two of my best friends are doing it together. Oh, cool. And like having like weekly check-ins, and we do the exercises together. A book club? Yeah, book club, baby. That's so cool. God damn it. I want to do white supremacy exercises. The book is anti-white supremacy? Yes. Or it's white supremacy? No, it's about tackling white supremacy. It says how to recognize your privilege, combat racism, and change the world. Just thought I'd clear that up first. Oh my god! Imagine if I was like, "Yeah, it's to make sure that we don't get coming out as a white. It's how to preserve white supremacy. No, fuck that. How do we solve this problem? There are little fun exercises we do in between the pages, and just like make up weird political cartoons. We write Fox News headlines. Called out Fox News. That's right. The first person on the planet to call out. Oh yeah, gotcha, baby. I'm the first one to realize that Fox News is kind of weird. Yeah. It was strange when I went to my godparents' place, and they don't watch the news, but they just have the TV on like all the time, just in the background, and it's just always playing Fox News. Mm-hmm. And they never like sat down to like watch TV because they just like chuck it on and it's like playing in the background. But like, do you reckon that's probably worse than like consuming any sort of media that's like obviously biased, or just like hearing it in the background and it's like subliminally bleeding into your mind? I don't mean specifically Fox News even. I just mean like any sort of like news. Yeah. News well, entity. You tell me. Do they seem to be buying into what Fox News is spitting out? Not particularly, but I don't really talk about politics or like current events with them that much. Have you watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix? I'm scared.
I'm scared.
Yeah,
I have the same reluctance to watch it as I do with any horror movie because I'm like, it's gonna change me.
Oh my God, that's great
I'd
to
rather
hear
just
because
like, I want to be on my Instagram.
horror movies.
I want to on my
I want to be one of those
Facebook.
people that likes horror movies, but I'm too scared.
Horror
But
movie buffs are like a very specific type of people. I watched Hereditary. That was the last horror movie I saw.
that fucked me up so bad. My friend and I went to the movies and saw it,
Haunting.
and Nathan Fielder was at the movie
Whoa!
and saw it. Isn't that crazy? So
Wait, what the fuck? Really?
So not to brag, but I watched Hereditary with
That's
Nathan.
so cool.
It was at the Vista Theatre in LA, and me and my friend Catherine went, and we're close friends, but at that point we were like kind of becoming closer, but we still didn't know each other very well. And by the end of the movie, we were covering each other's faces and holding each other. And she lived around the corner. She's like, should we just like have a sleepover because I'm so afraid to be alone. And I was like, my roommates at the time weren't home as well. So I was going to be alone as well. And we were just both like, what do we like? We cannot be alone after seeing this. That was the most terrifying thing. And
It's so fucking scary. I've never heard like anyone disagree, like even remotely. Every other film, like there's like a contrary of opinions, but like Hereditary is just like, oh my, it's so scary. It's good though.
It's good. It's good, but it's I can't.
Oh my God.
You ever watch Parallax?
Yeah. Did you watch Jeopardy?
Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Not the one with Alex Trebek.
That was
the one where there are a bunch of
what was that about again?
Scottish. It's a bunch of
game show.
Scottish exchange students in like outback Victoria. Why? Don't know. And they discover someone gets abducted by aliens, and then there's these they're all like trying to find their missing classmates. And all I remember is there's one girl who constantly is like, Simon, and she's saying Simon.
That's so fucking cool. Simon. Okay. You asked me a bunch of questions. I'm gonna ask you one last question.
Okay.
What was your favorite show when you were a kid?
I can't say of all time. You know that. That's
Of
too
all
much.
of them. Of all. Of all. What just went from when you were a kid, from when you were a child?
I'll say Lizzie McGuire, I think.
Okay, it's a good choice.
But that's not fair. There's so like that's not true though. I feel like I have to say one, but there's more. Like Angela Anaconda, she slapped. I loved SpongeBob.
That was so fucking good. Fucking Nanette Memoir. Oh, SpongeBob was so good. I
Yep.
rewatched the SpongeBob movie not that long ago. Man, that movie is so good.
A+.
Okay, that's like one of my fondest childhood memories was watching the SpongeBob movie in the theaters.
Yes.
And it was me, my brother, and my cousin Claire, and it was like one of the things of like, I can't remember, like we were with family, but like they were just like, they wanted to be without the kids for like a minute, so they just like, fuck, just watch a movie, and they dropped us off at the cinemas and they picked us up 90 minutes later. But we had the fucking best time, just the three unsupervised kids in the cinema.
Whoa.
We were given snacks, and we were given the funniest movie of all time, and we laughed so hard we ruined the cinema experience for every other person that was. It was like after it had been out for a little while, so the cinema wasn't packed. There was like maybe 10 other people there, and they weren't going crazy. It wasn't like, they weren't all like kids or anything like that. It was just three like really obnoxious, really loud and sticky kids right in the middle, and I laughed harder than I'd ever laughed in my fucking life. It was so funny. We're just exploding. It was like the funniest fucking shit, and I was like out of breath. Like it was my first distinct memory of like laughing so hard I was like out of breath. Like you ever laugh so hard where like
How old were
like
you when that
genuinely
happened?
can't breathe because your body wants to laugh. I was like 10.
I was like 8, and the first time that happened, I was doing a project at school on. We all had to do a presentation about a native Australian animal, and I had the kookaburra, and I thought it was so funny that I was talking about the kookaburra laughing that I just, while giving my presentation, just started laughing till I was like weeping, like uncontrollably, like losing my shit. But the SpongeBob movie is so good. I'm not exaggerating. Weekly, at least, I'll be walking around and just be like, I'm a goofy goober, rock, and then just continue with my day.
Because obviously I was like 10. I didn't realize that I'm a Goofy Goober, the song, was a parody of I Wanna Rock by Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
And then I heard I Wanna Rock by Twisted Sister, and I was like, this doesn't sound as good. Like, I didn't like it as much.
No, you need that.
I haven't
Goofy
listened to
Goober
them
energy.
side by side in a long time, but I feel like I probably still think that, though. I feel like I probably still prefer Goofy Goober.
I definitely do. You know what? Addendum to my will when I die thing. As my ashes are being scattered over the waterfall, I'm a Goofy Goober to play. And the ashes have to be thrown as he goes, rock. So it's like, I'm a Goofy Goober, rock. And then I fly off into the wind.
Rock.
That was great. We talked about books a little bit, and then we went on a tangent, which I think is good.
That's good. I mean, we were talking about books, but then we ended up talking more about stuff that wasn't books for a bit,
But that's honestly, books inspire other things. I'm very grateful to you for coming on. Thank you so much.
It was. I'm glad you invited me on. This is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Come back. If we think of another topic, so there's books. What else is there?
Nothing. There's nothing.
Cars.
Oh yeah, cars.
There you go, cars. Because we clearly both know so much about cars.
We can talk about all the shit we don't know about cars. Or the movie Cars.
Honestly, the movie Cars slaps.
Starring Owen Wilson.
Wow.
In the words of Owen Wilson, ka-chow.
I've had a lovely time talking to you about all of these.
I've had a lovely time too.
Many things. Where can the people consuming this find things that you're doing? Is there anything you want to plug? The Frankie Muniz. Wow, that's a great. You
the Frankie Muniz.
That's a great way.
No, we've made that we've said that exact same thing like 4 or 5 times. Like the Frankie Muniz. No, we're not going to change it now because he changed his name to Cisco Muniz. His full name is Francisco Muniz IV. He went from Frankie to Cisco, so it's Cisco Muniz. So we're so fucking lucky that we just called it the Weekly Muniz. We talked more about it in I think like 3 or 4 episodes ago. We talk about his name change. But yeah, Hayden keeps getting on my ass about like getting a Twitter and stuff like that. I probably should. But for now, just check out the Weekly Muniz. It's the Weekly Muniz, and just get it wherever you want. It's on Apple Music and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts.
Amazing. Give it a listen. Learn more about this exciting, interesting man that is Cisco Muniz, artist formerly known as Frankie. If you're watching this or listening to this, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe if you want.
Yeah.
If you don't want, that's fine too. But also, that'd be nice if you did. If you're listening to this on anything, give a rating, tell people.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
And that's...
Like, comment, and subscribe, please. Cool.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Duncan. And everyone be safe. And don't forget to wipe your butt properly next time you do a big stinky poo-poo.
Okay, I think I should do that now, actually.
Okay, perfect. All right, well.
Thank you for reminding me.
Anytime. Thank you, everyone. This has been Vision Quest. Also, I forgot to say this when we were recording, but you can find me on everything at Ashley Crap App. My Instagram, my Twitter, my Twitch. I stream every Monday night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daytime, and every Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Daytime, and my stupid TikTok. That's at Ashley Crap App. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are. Bye.